We've done some research looking at how what I call young creatives, designers, artists, digital content creators, entrepreneurs in the civic space, in the sort of tech space, basically looking at how they pursue their own creative and sort of civic aspirations. What happened was we saw kind of a reinvention of the model almost in real time. And so, for example, 2.0 was making the spaces more hybrid, for example. 2.0 was shifting from more of a kind of an open space, right, that was very public, to sort of creating more private spaces, more private offices. Some other things too, right, is that we were noticing creators of these spaces looking to be much more inclusive. So when you think of co-working spaces, right, and sort of the hot innovation hubs, Austin, Silicon Valley, New York, Boulder, wherever the case might be, those spaces tend to be male dominated. They tend to be white dominated, to be quite frank. And so what we were seeing, right, in terms of some of the spaces that we were looking at was spaces that were more inclusive, focusing on female entrepreneurs, focusing on younger entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs of color, for example. And then finally, I think particularly right for smaller communities, more rural and smaller populations, these spaces were an opportunity to attract and in some cases retain young talent. And the idea, right, is that by creating these co-working spaces, these innovation labs or hubs, that you stand a better chance of retaining them, a better chance of recruiting them, because it offers them, right, some of the amenities, some of the kind of cultural sort of aspects that they might find in a more urban or metro area. A lot of these economies, right, are looking to, in some ways, reinvent their economy, moving beyond agriculture, moving beyond, sort of industrial production, for example, and instead, right, really trying to break into the innovation economy in a variety of ways. And so, co-working spaces, in some ways, can be a real catalyst for that. And then finally, we think that it's a really important or critical way of retaining and in some ways even attracting younger entrepreneurial talent. And so we had an opportunity, for example, to work with some of the stakeholders and officials in Bernie when they were looking at trying to convert an old abandoned building in their downtown region into a co-working space. And so we sort of advised them on different ways in which they could measure success. What are some metrics for outcomes that you might look for? How might you basically tell the story to the city council, to the local chamber of commerce, that might convince them, right, that this is a space worth sort of allocating to this organization. And so it's this idea that in some ways, right, by sort of nourishing these kinds of spaces and by making them available to citizens within the community, you really provide opportunity, right, for economic ingenuity, for economic opportunity, and in some ways, right, to help your community sort of reinvent how it might participate in a rapidly changing sort of economic world.